Have you ever felt like you're surrounded by ghosts? That the people you think you know are just carefully crafted illusions? In this world, we are drowning in layers of social masks, elegant words, and a spirituality so artificial it feels hollow. We live in an age obsessed with image, the perfectly edited photo, the rehearsed smile, where society has tragically replaced authentic being with mere seeming. You are left interacting with edited versions of people, idealized projections that crumble at the slightest touch of reality. You've felt it, haven't you? That chilling moment when a person who seemed so charming and sweet suddenly turns cold and sarcastic, the second you contradict them, or when someone they deem useless crosses their path. In that instant, the mask doesn't just slip, it shatters. That's because the soul screams loudest when it's threatened, and true character is never revealed in moments of peace, but in the blistering fire of conflict and the revealing shadow of anonymity. What if I told you that you could possess the key, a powerful secret from the mind of Carl Jung himself, to see directly into a person's heart? Before we unlock this profound secret, I've noticed something. A huge majority of you who gain value from these videos are not subscribed. If you are on a journey to understand yourself and the world more deeply, take a single moment to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Don't let the algorithm hide these truths from you. Give this video a like to help spread this knowledge to others who are searching, and tell me in the comments what part of the world you are watching from. I want to see just how far the power of Jung's teachings can reach. Now prepare yourself. Forget what people say to you when everything is going well. If you want to see the naked truth of who someone really is, you only need to do two things. Observe them when their ego is wounded, and watch them in silence when they think there is no reward to be gained. There, and only there, will their soul be laid bare for you to see. It's not a coincidence. It is the very architecture of the human psyche. There is something deep, even unconscious, at play in each of them. And that is what we are going to explore together. Most people strive to appear virtuous, wise, or kind, but the truth of the soul does not manifest in calmness, but in friction, at the limit, in disappointment. And there are two key moments where the veil is lifted, and the shadow takes over, when we are contradicted, and when we deal with someone who can give us nothing in return. These two situations are more than just social tests. They are open windows to the unconscious. Why? Because the self we have built, that polished, decorated identity that we show to the world, is not prepared to deal with frustration or irrelevance. When someone contradicts us, it challenges our internal image, forcing us to face the possibility of being wrong, of not being in control. And when we encounter someone who does not flatter us, who does not represent an advantage, our capacity or incapacity to love unconditionally is revealed. From the perspective of depth psychology, these two moments activate very primitive aspects of the psyche. In contradiction, what reacts is not reason, but the wounded ego, that internal structure that clings to being right as a form of psychic survival. And before the figure of the socially useless, the unconscious measures the other's worth according to learned patterns, power, beauty, utility. Thus, one who has integrated their shadow treats even those who can give nothing back with respect. But one who lives from the need for validation or superiority despises that which does not bring them a gain. Wherever there is discomfort, there is truth, because discomfort strips us of our character and forces us to react from who we really are. Observing how someone responds to a contradiction is not just a matter of education or emotional intelligence. It is a revealing act of the level of consciousness, the degree of inner maturity, and the work or lack of work on their shadow. Likewise, seeing how someone treats the invisible, the humble, the one who is of no use to them, is like looking at their soul laid bare because there is no need to pretend, there is no audience, there are no praises to be won, only the truth remains. And I invite you to observe more attentively in your daily life, not to judge the other, but to learn, to also recognize in yourself those automatic reactions, those shadows that are activated. When something does not go as you expected, do not forget that what bothers you about the other is often a reflection of what you have not wanted to look at in yourself. And now, let me take you even deeper. I want you to accompany me to the first great mirror of the soul, the reaction to contradiction. When someone contradicts you, it is not just your argument that is being tested. Your internal structure is being tested, your ability to coexist with non-control, with difference, with the possibility of being wrong. In contradiction, the ego feels attacked. It does not matter how rational or balanced a person may seem. When faced with an opinion that challenges their perspective, what happens inside them reveals the true architecture of their inner world. There are those who, when contradicted, react with fury. Others shut down, change the subject, use sarcasm, try to impose their point of view with a tense smile or with disguised aggressiveness. And then, there are those who listen, who breathe before responding, who even appreciate the difference. These latter people are not weak or indecisive. They are the strongest, because they have worked on their shadow enough not to need to always be right. The desire to be right is an emotional addiction of the ego. It makes us feel safe, important, superior. But when that desire governs our relationships, what appears is fear, not wisdom. In my practice as a psychiatrist, I saw how the wounded ego was responsible for irreparable breakups, for internal wars, for long and cold silences between people who loved each other. And many times it all started with a simple contradiction, a difference of opinion that, instead of being understood as a natural part of human encounter, was experienced as a personal threat. When someone cannot tolerate being corrected, they are not defending their truth. They are defending an image of themselves that they do not want to see questioned. And that, from a Jungian perspective, is the shadow in action. The shadow does not always scream. Sometimes it hides behind pride, subtle arrogance, or even an apparent calm that conceals contempt. And you? How do you react when someone disagrees with you? Do you feel anger, the need to convince the other, pain, frustration? Or perhaps you can see that difference as an opportunity to look at the world from another angle. The inner work begins there, in observing what we feel when the world does not conform to our beliefs, because contradiction is not an enemy, it is a door. And only those who have made peace with their shadow can pass through it without getting lost in resentment or the need for superiority. But it is not just the ego that manifests here. The wounded inner child also appears, who was once silenced or humiliated, and who now cannot bear not to be validated. Contradiction can touch deep memories, old rejections, old wounds, which is why it hurts so much. But that pain can also be a path to self-knowledge. Where you react without understanding why, the journey towards yourself begins. And just as contradiction reveals us, so does another, even more subtle but equally revealing scenario: the way we treat those who have nothing to offer us. And we will talk about that in our next step into the depths of the human soul. The greatness of a human being is not measured by how they treat the powerful, nor by how polite they are to those they admire. It is measured in the most silent moments, in how they act in front of those who can give them nothing back, in front of those who bring them no status, no benefits, no praise. Many believe they are kind because they are friendly to their friends, attentive to their superiors, generous to those who can give them something in return. But the true test of the soul occurs in the presence of the invisibles. That elderly woman who walks slowly in the market line, that young man who cleans the bathrooms in a public place, the delivery person who drops off an order without even being looked in the eye. There, in that seemingly irrelevant instant, something profound is revealed. The relationship with the other who serves no purpose deactivates the ego's reward mechanisms, and in that deactivation, the truth emerges: authentic respect or disguised contempt. Whoever is only kind when there is something to gain is not kind. They are just an emotional negotiator. I have seen it many times. People who appear loving and compassionate in public, who master the language of respect, inclusion, humility, but when they think no one is watching, they despise the one who cleans, ignore the one who does not speak like them, become impatient with the weak. That duality, that contrast between what is shown and what is a wound in the collective soul. From the perspective of depth psychology, this behavior is a projection of the Shadow. The useless other bothers us because they represent parts of ourselves that we do not want to see. Our vulnerability, our powerlessness, our smallness. And that is why we react with coldness, impatience, or indifference. But one who has walked the path inward, who has embraced their own shadow, knows how to see in the other, even in the simplest one, a reflection of their own humanity. They do not need admiration or hierarchies. They know that everyone, absolutely everyone, shares the same essence. The mature soul does not classify people by what they have, but by what they are. And even more, it recognizes that what they are is also a mystery that is not for us to judge. And that is why the way we treat someone who can offer us nothing is perhaps one of the purest expressions of our consciousness. Because when there are no witnesses, when there are no benefits, when there is no power at play, only the naked heart remains. Have you observed yourself in those moments? Have you found yourself impatient, cold, or indifferent to someone who had no value to you? If so, do not blame yourself. Observe it. Accept that shadow that reveals itself, because only when we look at it without judgment can we begin to transform it. There is nothing more powerful than silent love, the kind that expects nothing, that seeks no recognition, and that acts out of pure compassion. And now, if you are willing, let us move toward an even deeper understanding. What is this shadow that manifests in us when we are contradicted or when we ignore the other? We will explore that in the next step of our journey. Everything we do not recognize in ourselves, everything we repress, what we deny, what embarrasses us, does not disappear. It hides, it conceals itself in the depths of our psyche. I called that the shadow. The shadow is not evil in itself. It is not an inner demon. It is actually a legitimate part of our soul that has been excluded from conscious dialogue. They are emotions, impulses, desires, fears, traumas, and memories that at some point were rejected, denied, or judged as unacceptable by our environment or by ourselves. And so we hid them. But what is repressed does not die. It transforms and waits. It is precisely in moments of pressure, like contradiction, or dealing with people who do not matter, that the shadow finds its opportunity to come to the surface. Why? Because in those situations, the ego's mask cracks, and what is behind the mask, what has been denied and stored away, manifests. The shadow appears when we let our guard down, when we are no longer in control of the image we project. It is there that we can see, with pain or surprise, who we really are. The disproportionate anger at a different opinion, the subtle contempt for someone humble, the impatience with the vulnerable. None of that comes from nowhere. It has deep roots. Sometimes it is the inner child who was not heard, or the humiliated adolescent. Sometimes it is the voice of the critical parent that still lives within you, or the wound of inferiority that turned into arrogance in order to survive. And the shadow does not act alone. It has allies within us. Quick judgment, the need for superiority, the desire to control, the difficulty in accepting difference. These mechanisms, if not observed with awareness, govern our reactions without us even noticing, and so we become victims of ourselves, because we live believing we are acting from reason, when in reality we are reacting from our unhealed wounds. The shadow is like a mirror that shows us what we find hardest to accept, that we are not completely aware of who we are. But not all is darkness. The shadow, when integrated, becomes strength, depth, empathy. One who has faced their shadow no longer needs to destroy the other to feel strong, no longer needs to dominate to feel valuable, and no longer despises the different because they have reconciled their own internal diversity within themselves. That is the true power of self-knowledge. It is not about being perfect. It is about being complete. Only that which is embraced can be transformed, and only that which is acknowledged ceases to dominate us from the shadows. Therefore, if you truly wish to know someone and to know yourself, do not just look for the light they emit. Observe their shadow as well, and learn to look at your own with the same compassion. In the next part, we will delve into a very common but little understood phenomenon, false harmony and the danger of appearances, a territory where the shadow disguises itself as virtue. Many people believe they are at peace just because they have silenced the conflict. They believe they are kind just because they never express what they truly feel. And they believe they are conscious simply because they have learned to talk as if they were. But the harmony that is imposed from the outside, without integrating what is happening inside, is merely a disguise, a performance, an illusion. We live in an era obsessed with image, not just the aesthetic image, but the emotional, the spiritual, the psychological one. Being positive, appearing elevated, showing oneself to be balanced, has become a new form of social demand. And in that constant effort to seem good, we lose contact with what is authentic. Who has not met someone who seems impeccable, who speaks with a calm voice, who always smiles, who avoids any confrontation, who seems immune to emotional chaos, but at the slightest challenge, at the smallest friction, becomes distant, cold, passive-aggressive? That is false harmony. That is the shadow disguised as virtue. The shadow also knows how to dress in light. It can use beautiful words, noble gestures, and even spirituality to continue denying what is repressed. Do not confuse peace with repression. Often, what appears to be calm is simply the silence imposed on emotions we have not known how to manage, and what we call tolerance can actually be a fear of confrontation. The authentic soul does not need to appear perfect. It allows itself to be human. From a Jungian psychology perspective, this is especially important because the process of individuation, that is, the path to becoming who you truly are, does not consist of becoming more luminous, but in making conscious both the light and the darkness that inhabit you. And that includes accepting your anger, your envy, your internal contradictions, your open wounds, not to dwell in them, but to integrate them. Everything we deny controls us, but everything we accept transforms us. False harmony is dangerous, not because it is ill-intentioned, but because it prevents us from growing. It numbs us in an idealized image of ourselves. And when someone confronts us, when a real situation demands that we step out of that character, we break. And there the shadow, ignored for years, appears with force, with anger, with coldness, with judgment, and surprises, even ourselves. Has it never happened to you that you reacted in a way you did not even understand? That you said something cruel without thinking? That you showed contempt without realizing it? That did not come from your essence. It came from your shadow, tired of being ignored. Whoever lives to seem cannot see the other. They can only manipulate them to maintain their character. That is why it is vital that we stop chasing apparent perfection and start cultivating authenticity. Because genuine emotion, even if uncomfortable, is worth more than 1,000 empty gestures. And a sincere look, even if it reveals fragility, has more strength than 1,000 beautiful words. In the next part of our journey, we will talk about something profoundly necessary: learning to observe without judging. An inner practice that not only transforms our relationships, but also opens the door to true compassion. To observe without judging is one of the purest forms of wisdom. It is also one of the most difficult, because our mind, trained since childhood to classify, compare, and defend itself, has forgotten how to simply look. Automatic judgment is an ancestral defense mechanism. When something makes us uncomfortable, we judge it. When someone hurts us, we label them. And when we do not understand something, we reject it. But in doing so, we not only distance ourselves from the other, we also distance ourselves from ourselves. In non-judgmental observation, there is a silent strength. It is not about justifying everything or becoming indifferent. It is about looking with the eyes of the soul, not with the weapons of the ego. Because every person who irritates you shows you an unresolved aspect of yourself. Every gesture that makes you uncomfortable reflects something you have not integrated. What bothers you in the other is almost always a mirror of what you do not want to see in yourself. When you manage to observe someone who reacts badly, who contradicts themselves, who projects their shadow, and instead of attacking them, you ask yourself, what pain might be behind their reaction? What untold story supports that behavior? And why does this affect me so much? Then you are entering a deeper level of consciousness. You have reached the end, and by doing so, you have been handed the master key to true human perception. What you now possess is more than just a concept. It is a spiritual technology. You now understand that to observe without judging is not passivity. It is the most potent form of active presence. It is choosing to understand before you condemn. This is the ultimate freedom, not just from the chains you place on others, but from the brutal judgment you inflict upon yourself. Think of the times you demanded emotional perfection from yourself, becoming rigid and preventing your own growth. That ends today, because you now know that the soul only expands in the space of permission. By observing yourself and others with compassion, you will finally discover what was hidden and free yourself from the need to control or punish, allowing you to respond from a place of profound awareness, not blind reaction. To anchor this powerful shift within you, I want you to write a simple, powerful declaration in the comments right now. Just write, "I will observe." Make it your mantra. As you do that, if this video has sparked a fire within you, and you are one of the many people who watch these videos but have not yet subscribed, this is your invitation to join us on this journey. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you are never left behind. And if you believe this is a message the world needs to hear, press the like button. You are now ready for the final step of this journey. You are ready to see the world and yourself with new eyes, to see with the soul through conscious presence. Thank you for your trust and for walking this path today. What comes next will change everything.